Welcome to Pitstop podcast with me, Jaco van der Merwe. I'm joined by Charles Bosch, and not completed yet, but almost completed our brand new podcast studio after the Citizens' big move last week from Industria West, where we spent quite a few decades to Craigall, closer to the Caxton community, the main Caxton house, communities, magazines, everyone here. But enough about those boring things and more into what we're here for, the cars. On the agenda this week, Nissan Magnite.
Yes.
Charles, it's sort of a personal favorite of yours. The
What?
Nissan, or should I say the Renault Kiger is more...
Oh, no, please not that. No.
Okay, Nissan Magnite, obviously a compact crossover SUV.
Yeah.
What has changed besides the price, obviously?
Well, they've gone with a bit of, it's their first midlife update for the Magnite. They've changed the exterior a little bit, the back as well. Subtle changes to the interior, one being a new infotainment screen. A segment first remote engine start, which is quite interesting, given the pricing and its placing as a compact or as an entry-level SUV. But there's been no changes to the drivetrain.
Drivetrain is still the 1 litre 3-cylinder naturally aspirated,
Yes.
and also 1 litre turbo.
Yes.
What are the outputs there? It's 53 on the...
52 and 96 kilowatts for the normally aspirated one. The turbo is 74 kilowatts, 160 newton meters of torque when you get it with the 5-speed manual, and 152 when you get it with the, I should say, newly improved CVT.
Newly improved CVT.
Yeah,
So
much better.
was there was a CVT before? Was it only AMT?
No. It was so the 5-speed automated manual on the normally aspirated one only. It's called Easy Shift. That remains easy with the EZ, and then the CVT is only available on the turbo as an option to the manual.
Okay, so we're starting this range off at 246,000.
Yes.
That's obviously the 1 litre naturally aspirated and the 5-speed manual, and then it goes up all the way top spec 410. I've seen some discussion saying that's maybe a bit pricey
Yes.
for that end, but let's look at the other end, 246. It is one of Nissan's best sellers.
Yes.
And 246 is still a good competitive price these days.
It is a very good. You have to know that you're going to have to make do with the fact that it is going to have very little power, when especially up here with only 52 kilowatts. What they're trying to do is because we no longer have the Nissan Micra, we do know that Nissan are bringing in their 2 new SUVs, which we've spoken about in the past. Both are going to be made in India as in the alliance with Renault. So those are going to plug the gap between the Magnite and the X-Trail. Because the Qashqai is no longer available. So what they tried to do was with the pricing is restructure the Magnite as breaching the gap between a normal A segment SUV and a B segment hatch, because there's no longer any Nissan Micra. So that's what they were trying to do, especially with the turbo versions. And that's one of the reason when we saw the pricing, we thought, maybe that's sort of on the dangerous side of the segment.
Yes, because especially if we spoke about this recently with Suzuki and saying how they have been Chinese-proof.
Yes.
With the pricing and the exact points of entry into their lineup, and obviously in their case a lot of the smaller hatches. But Nissan 246 is a price
Yes.
that is very Chinese-proof.
Very.
But as we move into the 300s, where the bulk of the models are, we step right headline and sinker into Chinese territory.
Yes. When you compare it with the spec and whatever, and the Magnite, although it has been, sadly, Nissan's main cash cow. See what I did there? Because
Like that.
exactly, Badumchi. So because the Navara hasn't been probably selling in quite the respective numbers that Nissan has probably been hoping for, the MP200 is dead. So that is their real only volume seller. So they're going to have to make the most of it. And this is the main way that they could combat with the Chinese invasion. And it is nowhere near as well equipped. Let's be brutal. It's not as well equipped as a Chinese car from a tech perspective. And you could even go so far as to say that the engines are not as powerful, which they are not. regardless of it being turbocharged or not. But it is a car that's established itself in the country. It is a favorite. I mean, you can go out right now and you will at least see 3 or 4 Magnites driving past you within a couple of minutes. So they are really, really betting a lot on this facelift to stem them until the new models arrive next year.
So let's just take a step back and say their direct competitors, where it starts there, 246, you would have the Hyundai Exter.
Yes.
You will have the Mahindra XUV 3XO.
Its sibling, the Kiger.
The Kiger, obviously. So compared to those, how do the Magnite line up? Very much same-o, or is there...
So we only got to drive the turbo versions, obviously. We got to drive a manual. The majority of them were CVTs, but we managed to commandeer the only manual version that was available.
Nice.
Very, very nice. It was actually one of the big surprises. You could go so far as to say, because it's got that extra 8 newton meters of torque, and it doesn't sound a lot on paper, but the moment we set off, it moved. It felt so sprightly. It felt so willing. The CVT, I mean, we all know what motoring journalists think of CVTs. It's nowhere near as sprightly. It's nowhere near as get up and go from the start. But whatever changes they've made, it was just incredible. The box doesn't shout itself off to death on the highway. It's only when you push it extremely hard, and I mean really, really, really hard, that it starts to scream and make horrible noises. But in general, it was very, very smooth. Comparatively to the Exter, I would still say it felt a little bit nowhere near as spacious as an Exter. Driving was about the same, but obviously with the turbo there is a bit more punch. It felt a bit more livelier than the Exter, but then on the other hand, it's also, if I can remember correctly, a bit heavier. But it's going to be nip and tuck between those two once the facelift has its first full month of sales.
Speaking about the Kiger, obviously that's Nissan's alliance with Renault, Mitsubishi, the whole project. We're not going to go into that in too much detail, but what's been going on with Nissan, all the rumors of late, and I'm talking just now overnight and today, that job losses on the cards and absolutely horrendous slide in profit over the last year. The fact that there is a lot of them produced, at least Kigers and Magnites for the moment, that's at least a good thing.
It is a very good thing. It is a bit of a crisis that Nissan is finding themselves at the moment, predominantly because of what's happening in the United States and China, with sales tanking, salary cuts. 9,000 people are on the verge of losing their jobs. 2 of the main factories in America are about to they're going to have their shifts cut until March next year. What Nissan told us at the Magnite event is South Africa and the Greater Africa region is they are immune. That's what we were told. They are immune from all the drama happening that side. They're going to be rolling out new products. So in that regard, it is a good thing with the whole, because there's also issues with the alliance. There's been troubles with the alliance for a very long time. Nissan has reduced their stake in Mitsubishi. There's reports of Renault also reducing their stake in Nissan. So it is a under fire alliance, unfortunately, as a couple of things as sometimes are. But at least they've got that flow correct. And I mean, that facility in Chennai builds Magnite, it builds Triber, it builds Kiger. It's going to start building the new pair of Nissan badged Renault SUVs. It's the biggest factory outside of Japan, one of the biggest factories outside of Japan, where the majority of our cars come from. So at least in that regard, it's good that there is stability on our side rather than what's happening in Europe or in America and China.
Well, I would love to believe them that the local operations are safe.
I hope
because,
so.
In football today, when they say the manager's fine, tomorrow he's gone.
Correct.
That's unfortunately how it works. But we will keep you up to date as soon as we hear anything. Of course, like Charles said, Nissan South Africa hasn't said anything along the lines of that they're in trouble, anything. These are just the global reports that's been surfacing over the last few days or weeks. But as soon as we learn anything, we'll keep you up to date as always. And that was all for us this week. Thank you for listening. I'm Jaco van der Merwe, was joined by Charles Bosch. If you like this podcast, go and like it. You can share it, or even better, follow our YouTube channel. Thank you for listening. Cheers.